Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Seth, psychologist, and today the topic is family relationships. Specifically, we are going to talk about when siblings find themselves in a position of caring for elderly parents. When that happens, sometimes some challenges can come up in sibling dynamics. So, I want to address a few of those things so that the focus can remain on caring for the elderly parents, and yet among the siblings, doing it as smoothly and effectively as possible. So, one of the first things to focus on when siblings are dealing with caring for elderly parents is to clarify roles and responsibilities. There are many different types of roles and responsibilities when caring for elderly parents. There are many different needs. There are financial needs. There are needs for appointments. There are needs for emotional support for the elderly parents. And everybody has different strengths. Everybody also likes to do different things. Being emotionally supportive may come very natural to one sibling, but not another. While managing finances or organizing things like appointments, that might be perfect for the personality of another sibling. So, one thing that can be really helpful in clarifying roles and responsibilities is to actually have a conversation about it, be clear about who is going to do more of what, and also then later to put things in writing. Think about a meeting, for example, at work. A lot of times, one person is taking sort of just general summary minutes of what was discussed. And one person, if they like to play a sort of secretary function, can say, hey, listen, you know what I'll do each week? I'll just send a few summary notes on what we talked about, kind of what happened in the last week, what's happening in the next week, or maybe doing it a month at a time. But you see the point, putting it in writing. One note that I want to make when putting things in writing is always add positive comments, add thank yous, add little shout outs. Shout out to John, who went the extra mile and helped mom with such and such. Or having a little section for thank yous or shout outs can go a long way. It can also make it a little bit more fun and add a little bit a sense of emotional connection between the siblings. And that is just as important. The next issue is to recognize and address guilt when it comes up. So, when something is happening that is making you feel guilty, it's okay to say that. Remember, when you bring up issues with siblings, it is critical to notice your tone of voice and your rate of speech. Your rate of speech, sometimes things can be said so quickly and so impulsively that before you know it, something sharp or negative has been released into the conversation. And then you've got siblings sort of ping ponging in response to the negative comment. And then a lot of times you have a really uncomfortable conflict. It is okay, and in fact, even necessary for anyone's mental health to set some degree of boundaries. If there's something that you're being asked to do that you simply can't do, then it's okay. You can gently let your siblings know that it's not possible that you can do it. And you can mention, I do feel guilty because of it. And yet I know that this is just simply the reality. The next issue is to communicate very clearly. A lot of times, especially with family or in other relationships where we believe that people really know us well, you know what happens? A lot of times we expect others to do mind reading. We presume a lot of times that people know what we were thinking or can imagine maybe how difficult something might be for us, or even how impossible it might be for us to do something for any number of reasons. So sometimes we don't say it. And what we do is we just skip to frustration, anger, or resentment. Instead, communicate. And the goal always is to communicate in real time. Communicate clearly. You can say things like, I can do appointments during the week with mom or dad, but on the weekend, that is not as easy for me to do. So I would like to help with appointments during the week. That is an example of very clear, specific communication. The next reminder that can be helpful in these dynamics is to be strategic about your time. So, time becomes one of the most important commodities when it comes to helping elderly parents. And one of the things that can help give everyone a clear sense of the time issues, the time demands for the elderly parent, and also the time demands that are going on for each sibling. One technical tip is to use something like shared calendars. Okay. It's one thing, for example, if someone says, listen, I can't do Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays because I have XYZ. But if you were to use a shared calendar, you actually don't even need to explain that, or sometimes what can feel like justify that. Okay. You can say, listen, in the calendar, I sort of share what I have going on during my week, and any other sibling can go check out, oh, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I know sibling A has this issue. So that's not possible. Shared calendars can be an enormous help and are also an additional method of communication. And of course, I had to save the juggernaut for last. Juggernaut, yes. Is it one of my favorite words? You know what? Juggernaut is one of those words I actually have to look up in the dictionary, and I'm going to do that today. Sometimes we find ourselves using words, and we might not actually even understand the derivation of that word. Sometimes words also, the meaning of them changes over time, but I need to look that up because I need a little better history on that word. I think actually just the sound of it, juggernaut, is so great just to begin with. But the last issue that I want to focus on is perhaps the most important, and that's this one. Accept the family dynamics rather than immediately trying to fix them. A lot of times when a strain hits a family, and a lot of times caring for an elderly parent brings challenges and demands in terms of time and energy and other resources. Well, when challenges and strains affect families, a lot of times they add stress. And of course, we all know this, that some pre existing family dynamics start to rear their head again. So, old resentments, old conflicts that siblings may have had with each other tend to get exacerbated. They can come back quickly in a millisecond. It can be really kind of astonishing when you're in that situation. You may be in a situation with your sibling, and all of a sudden the mood changes so quickly, and you feel like you're on the receiving end of anger or resentment. And you're thinking, whoa, you had no idea that something so small could trigger such anger or such frustration. But actually, what we realize is that if we take a step back, we come to see that these are pre existing resentments and dynamics that are getting reactivated by the current stress. So do not focus on trying to fix the relationship dynamics. Instead, the number one goal is to make things functional and cooperative among you siblings as you're taking on this caregiving role with elderly parents. Functional cooperation. Functional cooperation. And in fact, that's like a mantra that you can repeat in your head in moments when something triggers you with your siblings as you go about caring for your parents. I hope this video has been helpful. I'm Dr. Seth, psychologist.